Hello everyone and welcome back to Sarang Menon Academy. Now in this video we will be exploring functions in C. So let's get started. So basically what are functions? Functions are some lines of code that we write which we can use it for a later purpose, which means we can repurpose the same code. For example, if I create a function which greets the user, and then suppose if in the same program itself in a later stage I need to reuse or I need to again write the same greeting message, I can create it inside a function and I can repurpose it, meaning I don't need to write the same line of code again and again. I can just call the function and the greeting message will automatically be displayed. So now we will be creating a function that adds two numbers, and then we will be learning how to call the function. So first of all, let's write our header code, hashing.cd io.h. Now let's use the normal function int main. So this is also a function int main. This is the main function of the code, but we'll be not writing code inside this function for now. Instead we'll be creating another function above the main function. So for functions also we need to give data type. So since I'm going to write a function which is going to add two numbers, so since both of those numbers would be integers, so I'll be writing the function as integer data type. So I'll write int, then name of the function, I'll give add, then open parentheses, then open curly braces. Then inside that I'll write int x is equal to 1, int y is equal to 2. I am giving two variables with two separate values assigned to it. And then if I write printf %d and I separate it with comma, and then I write x plus y, then I put a semicolon, and here I write return 0, means I am returning the value of this function with 0. Since it's an integer function, I need to return it with an integer. Now in main function I'll call this function. Now how will I call this function? I simply need to write this function name, then put a parenthesis, then a semicolon. And since main is also an integer function, I'll return it with 0. Now if I run my code, as you can see, it prints 3. Now again, if I need to call this function, let me just write some random text, and then if I need to call the same function in later part of this code, suppose over here, I can just call this function once again and run my code. As you can see, the function is being called again. There's no new line given, that's why it's showing in a single line. Otherwise, if we give a new line, it will display it in a neat format. So I'll remove all the lines of code which I have written inside main function. And now, till now we have learned how to call a function, how to write something inside a function that we create. But if you have noticed that I have specified the values of x and y over here, x is 1 and y is 2, so it will, if we add both of them, it will give 3. And if I call the same function, it will give me 3. But if I want to change the numbers, what if I don't want x as 1 and y as 2? If I want to give my own values, here it's not possible because I can't change the values. If I need to change the values, I need to change it in the function itself. But what if I need to call and add 1 and 3 in the first call, and in the second call I need to add 5 and 3, where in each call I need to change the values of the numbers? It's not possible. So that's where parameters and arguments come into place. Now what are parameters and what are arguments? Basically, first of all, I'll remove all the lines of code which are written in add function also. Now if I want to let me decide what should be the values of x and y every time I call. Inside the parenthesis, I will specify the names of the variables. Since I want x and y, I'll write int x, then comma int y, two variables. But I am not giving any value to it. The value will be decided by me each time when I call the function. Now this x and y written inside this parenthesis in the main function, in the main add function, is known as parameters. Means the variables that we give are known as parameters over here inside the function's parenthesis. And now I write what should I do with this function. I need to print. So I write printf %d separated by comma x plus y. So now whenever I call this function add my own numbers, this will automatically add those numbers. And here in the main function, if I call add and put it with semicolon, it will throw an error because I haven't specified the value of x and y. So how do I specify the value of x and y? Here I need to write the first number. So the first number which I write will be automatically gone to x. The second number I write will be automatically assigned to y. Suppose if I want to add 3 and 4, I'll write 3, 4, and then if I run my code, as you can see, it will automatically print 7. Now if I just separate the new line, and if I want to call this add function again, and this time if I want to add another two numbers, I suppose 15 and 1, I write 15, 1, then separate it, then add a semicolon. Now if I run the code, as you can see, it has printed 16. In the similar way, if I add one more number and separate it with new line, again call add function, then if I want this time to add 1 and 1, it will print 2. As you can see, 3 different times I have used 3 different pairs of numbers and it has printed all those 3 numbers, and I haven't changed anything inside the function. Now these 3 and 4, 15 and 1 and 1 and 1 which are given inside the main function while calling the add function, these are known as arguments. So the parameters I have already given in my original function, which is add function. Here I don't assign any values, but each time when I call this function give some values, these are known as arguments. So the initial variables without assigned values is parameters, and each time when I call the function and give some value to it is known as arguments. So this is the concept of parameters and arguments. Like this I can create another function. This time I'll create it of void type. Now what is void? Now void means I am not returning any integer value, I am returning null value. Here I need to write 0, but when I write void, I don't need to give anything. So if I want to create a function which greets the user, I can write void greet, and then inside curly braces I can write printf welcome, and then here I can simply write return like this with a semicolon, or I can choose to not write anything. If we want, we can write return like this, or if we don't want to write any return statement, we are free, we can write, it's our wish if we want to write return statement or not inside void, where inside when a function is known as void. Now inside the main function, this time I'll remove all the lines which says of add function. This time I just call the greet function, and then if I run the code, as you can see, it will print welcome. And if I want here to print a new line and to print another statement like our products and services, and then if I run my code, As you can see, it will automatically print welcome our products and services. Now this is how we create functions and give parameters and arguments, and we can create functions of void type. So that concludes this video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the subscribe button, like it and share it with your friends and family. Thank you for watching.